Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session that I created for a gentleman that was going through a period of severe anxiety that actually followed quite a serious health condition. And during that serious health condition, it affected his confidence and led to him forming a belief of not being good enough. And that really had a big impact in terms of his interaction with other people. And as I was working with this gentleman, it really brought me back to kind of why I do what I do, because when I was in my late teenage years, early 20s, I had very severe social anxiety, and that led to, I don't know if it was led to a belief or if the belief led to the social anxiety, but I certainly had a belief of not being worthy, not being good enough. So I could really relate to this man's situation. And for me, I'm a big fan of testing stuff. So I tested whether or not he really did believe if he was good enough. And quite often you find a loop. So he believed he wasn't good enough. I said, how do you know that it's true? And then he would give evidence that was then based on a health condition that he had. But then the health condition meant that he couldn't do certain things like go to the gym and work out, which means he couldn't have the body shape, which then proved that he wasn't worthy of, let's say, being in a relationship. And then that would give him evidence that he wasn't good enough. So for him, it was a loop. Whether he was in that loop, it would then support the next part of that loop. And that is easy to see from the outside in, but it's very difficult if you're living in that world. You just have an overall sense that I can't do this, that this door is closed to me, that I can't do the kind of things that I want. And what tends to happen for people that deep down don't believe that they're good enough, there's a couple of clues. One, there can be a desire to fix the problem, to get better. So if you're not good enough, then try and improve yourself. The other thing that can happen is almost fantasies of a life where you meet this kind of insane criteria of what it takes to be good enough. And what you find is that becomes a fantasy because it's not necessarily realistic. And while it's unachievable, you don't activate the resources to make progress. What happens when you actually believe that you are good enough is that you then become more resourceful to create a self-fulfilling prophecy where you do things that mean that you are worthy and you get better in lots of different areas of your life. What was evident talking to this particular client is that all of the reasons that he had for not being good enough were based on variables outside of his control. And when I challenged them and gave a counter argument within his life that was true about his character and his desire to never give up, even though he had health issues, actually led to a different belief, which is the polar opposite of not being good enough, which is that he was exceptional. So that's the gist of this hypnosis session. It's using a metaphor that has echoes of a link to health, but also to this idea that consequences come from belief systems, and the belief systems come from a point in time where an evaluation was made. So you're going to hear all of this in this hypnosis session that uses a tree as a metaphor to represent the original belief that we then replace with a more empowering positive belief to give him more opportunities and a better sense of his own value and validity. If you're listening to this and you feel that you're also not good enough, or there's certain things that you feel that are closed to you because of the perceptions about yourself and how worthy you are, there will be a link nearby where you can book a free 30-minute consultation call with me, and I can explore what it would be to work with you directly, in that kind of way. But I do think that this is broad enough, although it was created for someone else, it's broad enough that if you do feel that you have low confidence, low self-esteem, and you want to feel better in your own skin, I guarantee there will be evidence in your life that you are also exceptional, and that is a much more empowering belief system than believing that you're not good enough. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just get a sense that tension, stress, worries are leaving your body in your outward breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice that with your eyes closed, you're able to give more of your focused attention to the sound of my voice. And in doing so, notice that as you breathe out, give permission to your body to let go of that tension. And maybe it's tension around your eyes, your jaw, maybe your neck and your shoulders. Just let go of that tension now. So as you breathe in and breathe out, just get a sense that you're going deeper and deeper, relaxed. Now, eyelids getting heavier and heavier. I want you to imagine that you're breathing in glowing white light. Imagine it to be healing white light. As you imagine that healing white light going through your nose, filling your lungs, I want you to get a sense that it is allowing tension to be released, worries to be dissolved, stress to be melted away. But also imagine that it is healing you from the inside. As you exhale, notice that that bright, glowing white light that went in now seems to have turned into a dark, shadowy color that's leaving your body. And that represents any tension, stress, worries, or ill health that is leaving your body in your outward breath. The more vividly you imagine that glowing white light going in through your nose, and the more that you observe on that long outward breath, dark, grey colours leaving your body, the more you become aware that tension is melting away. And I want you to get a sense that things that are not useful for you, things that are not working for you, are leaving your body, and they're being replaced with this resourceful, healing feeling of relaxation, melting away tension, taking you to a place within your imagination where you can deeply relax. I want you to create within your mind's eye a garden. I want you to imagine a beautiful garden with a large, rotten tree. If you can imagine a beautiful garden with one rotten tree filled with rotten fruit, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to get a sense that this tree represents a belief that you're not good enough. And each of the items of rotten fruit coming from that rotten tree are the consequences in your life. All the things you can't do, all the problems that it causes. I want you to imagine this rotten fruit is filled with wriggling maggots, the stench of putrefied fruit. In fact, just to get a sense of how disgusting this is, I want you to imagine walking up to that rotten tree, picking an item of rotten, soft fruit in your hands, bringing it up to your nose and imagining that if you bit into this, it would be rancid, disgusting, probably filled with maggots and worms. But I want you to accept the suggestion that the rotten fruit is simply a consequence of a rotten tree. And that doesn't mean that all trees have rotten fruit. Just this particular tree. And I want you to imagine that this tree wasn't magically here all along. At one point in time, this tree was a seed of an idea that you weren't good enough, probably formed at a point in your life where you were going through tough times. I want you to imagine going back in time to perhaps where this belief was just a delicate seed of an idea, the point of inception. And if you can remember what you were doing back then that could have led to a belief that you weren't good enough, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to observe yourself like you're seeing someone else, seeing that you went through tough times. Things that you didn't choose to do, but you had to deal with. And I want you to get a sense that while certain things were true, that you had limitations, that perhaps you couldn't do some of the things you wanted to do or would have liked to do, and maybe you were different from a different version of you at a different time in your life. But I want you to think of every hero in every movie that you've ever seen. Isn't it the case that what made them a hero, what made them exceptional, was their ability to go through tough times, to go through adversity, to go through hell and come out the other end? And I wonder what would happen if you started to see yourself as a hero, as someone that went through difficult moments, challenging times, but instead of giving up, you became more relentless, more focused, more motivated, taking responsibility, still remaining positive, even though there were setbacks and challenges, adversity. I want you to get a sense that what if you planted the wrong seed of an idea back then? You planted the seed of an idea that you weren't good enough. Whereas actually the real seed to be planted was that you are a hero, exceptional, willing to take on and go through tough times, adversity, challenges, and didn't it make you stronger? Psychologically stronger? That relentless determination to never give up. I want you to get a sense that anyone can just go to the gym. Anyone can work out. But that doesn't make them exceptional. What makes someone exceptional is going down challenging roads. Think of the early pioneers, the people that traveled to countries that hadn't been explored yet. That wasn't the easy path. They went down dangerous roads, challenging pathways. There was risk attached. Some of the early explorers went through ill health, disease, challenges, loneliness, and yet weren't they the pioneers? Weren't they the exceptional ones? I want you to get a sense that back then, a seed was planted of you not being good enough, and I want you to imagine going to the very point where that seed was planted, that turned into that big rotten tree, and imagine taking out a very small seedling, a sapling, a tiny tree, when it was all vulnerable and delicate. And I want you to imagine destroying that tree. Maybe that delicate branch, imagine ripping the roots apart, tearing it to bits, knowing that that big rotten tree couldn't have become a big rotten tree if you got to the point where the seed became a delicate sapling and you just ripped it up from its roots. And I want you to imagine planting a different seed, a seed of an idea back then when you were going through tough times, that you are exceptional. Imagine planting that seed, watering it, making sure that it's cared for, and then seeing it turn into a little sapling, and then protecting it, nurturing it, a belief that you are exceptional. And I want you to think of evidence as to why that belief is true. I want you to think of a time where you were motivated to be your best, even though it wasn't easy for you. And when you can think of a time like that, let me know by nodding your head. And then notice the tree gets bigger. I want you to think of a time where you chose to never give up. A feeling of being relentless. That even though there was setback and perhaps doctors and people telling you that there was no chance, and yet you didn't believe them anyway, this belief in yourself that you can get through this, when you can recall a memory or a moment like that that gives evidence that you're exceptional, let me know by nodding your head. And then see that tree get even bigger. Think of a memory, a moment where you've really strived to improve yourself. Maybe improved your mind by learning new things, improved your health by taking supplements. A time when you've strived to improve, and when you can think of that time, let me know by nodding your head. And then the tree gets even bigger. I want you to think of a time where you thought that whatever happens, I'll get through this. That you took a long-term perspective rather than getting all upset in the moment. You took a longer perspective and you thought that one day I'll get through this. And when you can recall that time, notice the tree gets even bigger. When you accept that a lot of people don't take responsibility, but that you know that you take responsibility. You take responsibility for your health, your well-being, your income, your life. Big decisions, you take responsibility. And as you realize that you do take that responsibility, isn't that yet more evidence that you're exceptional? Life has given you all the reasons in the world to be bitter, resentful, negative, and yet you still have that glass half full approach, that you're positive, belief that things will improve, things that will get better. And when you acknowledge that feeling of being positive and optimistic, again, that becomes evidence that you are exceptional. And that tree gets even bigger now, like a full-grown tree, maybe going into blossom, starting to develop those buds that will turn into future delicious, healthy fruit. I want you to get a sense that in life, why would anyone be interested in people that aren't interested in them? There is a universal law of reciprocity. If someone was rude to you, you're not going to like them. If someone didn't admire the qualities that you have, doesn't that mean that they're not compatible with you? I want you to get a sense that you are discerning, you have high standards, you're not willing to be with someone that isn't attracted to your qualities. And because you have that element of discernment, that means that you're exceptional. And as you accept that to be true, notice that tree gets even bigger, more branches starting to bear fruit. I want you to get a sense that you don't have to be the best at everything. In fact, there's no requirement that you have to be the best at anything. But I want you to accept that your character is unique, exceptional. You have a hunger to learn. You're ambitious. You have discipline, determination. And when you accept that your character is what makes you exceptional, notice that tree gets even more healthy looking. The tree is a healthy looking tree starting to bear delicious looking fruits. I want you to get a sense that some people have ideas about what it means to be competent in all these different areas of your life. A good person, a good lover, a good partner. And I want you to get a sense that you have those qualities, those characteristics that make you caring and considerate and thoughtful for other people. And not everyone is, which again gives you evidence that you are exceptional. I want you to think about how you make your money, your income, and realize that not everyone can do that. Not everyone is wired that way, and therefore that also makes you exceptional. And then stand back in that beautiful garden, seeing that incredible tree. What used to be a rotten tree with smelly fruit is now a beautiful, vibrant tree with the most delicious looking fruit. And that fruit represents opportunities in your life. These opportunities could be people, income streams, memories and experiences. But just because the fruit is there doesn't mean anything unless you take the initiative and you pluck the fruit, you eat the fruit, you take those opportunities. But you're now taking these opportunities, these desirable opportunities, from a place of believing that you are exceptional. The tree is evidence itself that it's true. Your past is evidence that it's true. And the fruit is just the opportunities that come from believing that it's true. And if your subconscious mind now believes that you are exceptional, let me know by nodding your head. If your unconscious mind is now excited at all the opportunities that being exceptional will bring for you, let me know by nodding your head. Now it's time to leave this garden, but just take one bit of fruit, bite into it, and this will be better quality sleep. As you taste that better quality sleep, you realize that of course this is a natural reaction, because for a long while you've believed that you weren't good enough, and now you believe that you're exceptional, which means that your body doesn't have to constantly worry about not being good enough. Instead, as you sleep, as you dream, you'll be reminded of what makes you unique, what makes you exceptional, reminding you of those incredible qualities that you have inside you, which means naturally you're going to sleep better. But it also means that it will be like seeing the world through different eyes. You will notice a greater sense of confidence, more self-assurance. Your self-esteem will increase simply because you acknowledge all those qualities that were true all along. And don't be surprised if you notice other people noticing you, because that confidence is there. It will change your facial expressions, your eye contact, how you move, how you walk, how you communicate to other people. And if there are any interactions with anyone, you will communicate from a position of you having positivity, a good character, and consideration for other people. Imagine now returning to the present, listening to my voice. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, you will awaken feeling resourceful, feeling relaxed, feeling healthier, but most of all, accepting with 100% conviction that you are exceptional and knowing it to be true from all the things that you've done in your life that prove that to be true. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.